SnowTrax is sponsored by Polaris, Think Outside, Ski-Doo Snowmobiles, Yamaha, Revs Your Heart, and by iPone Lubricants, exclusively distributed by Parts Canada.
When I think of the word versatility, I think of a lot of different snowmobiles. 136 and 137-inch trail sleds, 146-inch off-trail crossovers, but one that I often overlook is the Ski-Doo Expedition. And I really shouldn't, because this thing truly is the harmony of work and play. Available in 4 different models, from the entry-level Sport, the mid-range LE, the Premium SE, and the Ultimate Extreme, the Expedition shouldn't be viewed as a workhorse solely, because behind all the variations and all the options you can choose is a very capable and very fun sled. One that I'm going to dub the sport utility vehicle of snowmobiling, and today I'm going to show you how it lives up to that name. And this right here is a 2023 Expedition SE. Now this sled comes in 4 different flavors. You've got the 850 ETEC 2-stroke, you've got the 900 ACE base naturally aspirated 4-stroke, you've got the 900 ACE Turbo, and you have the big boss 900 ACE Turbo R. And while I like the 850 and the big Turbo R's power, I've opted for the slightly detuned ACE Turbo that comes in at around 135 horsepower. And it still offers all the things that we like about 4-stroke engines, and in this category, particularly the torque for pulling and the ease of use when idling the sled a lot or running at very low speeds in and out of the bush. While doing those tasks, we typically only reserve for big, heavy utility sleds. Now the Expedition SE comes standard with a 2-up seat and a massive cavernous rear storage box. You could probably put a Mini Z back here, but you probably shouldn't do that. The 135-liter cargo box is removable, so you can easily use that space for other things like the chainsaw and fuel, or to strap down your fishing gear. With the box removed, you still have the perimeter bumper to help hold in your gear and to use as a tie-off point as well. And while I like this multi-use design, I find the storage box pretty much holds everything that I need for my utility purposes. And really the biggest use that we find for utility sleds in the winter is towing. Hooking on, whether it be a groomer or a sleigh, to pull stuff out of the bush that you just can't do once wheeled access is impossible because the snow's too deep. And here's where that 20-inch wide, 154-inch long track really shines. With a footprint like Bigfoot himself, the 900 turbo motor's torque doesn't mind being worked, especially with the 2-range transmission shifted into low, and the P-drive and QRS clutches are very comfortable being loaded up and doing the work you ask of it. Loading up the sleigh with logs to be processed isn't just easy, it's fun because the Expedition has a traditional RAS-X front dual-arm suspension system instead of the Tundra or Scandic style struts. So it feels good and it isn't tippy at all. Now because it's the SE, we have the ACS air suspension on the rear skid, and when towing a big load you can bump up that suspension so the added tongue weight doesn't bottom out the skid. Now at just shy of 700 pounds, the Expedition is not a lightweight. But at the same time, it doesn't really feel heavy. It's quite nimble and fun to move around. And if you're standing there thinking to yourself, well, what about the 850 ETEC? Keep in mind, it's only 35 pounds lighter. When we're talking a total of 700 pounds, that's really not all that much, and it doesn't make that big of a difference. Now the Expedition isn't just a great hard-working snowmobile. Remember I called it the SUV of snowmobiling. Shifted into high range on the transmission, and on the trail, characteristics and ergonomics are precisely what you need to blow off the sawdust and have a little fun by yourself or 2-up depending on what's required. The SC5U rear skid is a superb handling rear suspension, especially when you consider the 154 by 20-inch wide track is nearly twice the footprint of a traditional 129 15 wide sled. With the laser-focused RAS-X front end and the HPG shocks, you don't push through the corners, but get a very nice feeling front end that capably controls the heavy traction out back. The 900 Turbo is more than adequate for 1-up or 2-up trail cruising, and when you want to spin it up and lift the skis, there's no hesitation when the turbo spools. And when it comes to 2-up riding, rear passenger comfort is really, really good. You've got handguards, heated hand grips, a nicely bolstered seat and backrest, and then if you want to go for a one-up ride and you don't want the look of a two-upper, pop the thing off. 2 easy clips, it comes off, and then yet again, there's even more storage underneath the two-up seat. Getting the most out of your sled is important when you're making a significant investment. And for me, having a sled that's not just able to pull double duty, but exceptionally capable at doing multiple things very, very well, yeah, that's just common sense. And if I'm being honest, a much easier sell to my significant other when she knows that the sled I'm buying will bring in the firewood, take the kids along for the ride, or be the ultimate two-up luxury vehicle when her and I want to head out for dinner. And that's precisely what the 2023 Ski-Doo Expedition SE is, a sport utility snowmobile.
SnowTrax is sponsored by Hercules Tire. Ride in our strength.
It's come to that time of year again where the collective brain trust here at SnowTrax sits down and we fight about all of the experiences we've had on our fleet of sleds all this season, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then we agree on, at least we could agree on one thing, narrowing down our pool of sleds down to 3 or 4 units depending on what's there. And then comes the even more grueling process of deciding which of those 3 sleds is going to be our sled of the year. And this year maybe was one of the most difficult years we've ever had. There was a lot of arguing, but we've come to a consensus finally, though begrudgingly to some of us.
So the 3 top sleds that we picked were the brand new VR1 Turbo 137 from Polaris. We picked the brand new G5 Renegade XRS 850 ETEC from Ski-Doo with Smart Shocks. And we also had the Polaris Switchback Assault, which is the 850 non-turbo 146 with a 1.6-inch lug track. So these are very, very high-tech snowmobiles that have really like the best features available for each one, which is kind of interesting because, you know, real world sled of the year, and these are real world features that we find that people actually will use.
So to get to this highly selective spot in this selection of the Sled of the Year award, the winner, we had to go through quite an intense process of elimination to get down to these 3 sleds. And believe me, it was a very intense process because we know that you expect us to give you the straight goods and ultimately who wins this annual contest.
So the way we did it was just said each of us is going to pick our favorite sled, whichever sled that we've been riding this winter that was the one we wanted to go to every time we went for a ride.
I believe all 3 of our picks, we all agree, really does encompass snowmobiling for us in a flatland area. But my pick was the 2023 Ski-Doo Renegade XRS G5 with the 850.
And Smart Shocks.
And Smart Shocks. And honestly,
most notably Smart Shocks.
Yeah, Smart Shocks really does work well on this sled, but all around, number one thing I noticed right away, because we went out and we had a full testing day. After we picked all the sleds, we had a full testing day where we went out for a ride with these snowmobiles and put miles on back to back to back to back, just jumping between, all of us did. Biggest thing I noticed about the G5 Ski-Doo, you get off any other snowmobile, right away, there is no vibrations anywhere. And that was one thing that I noticed about Ski-Doo, is the refinement. And I believe Ski-Doo snowmobiles for 2023 are the essence of refinement when it comes to snowmobiling.
And you know what's funny? Is Ski-Doo has not made much of the fact that they've gotten rid of that vibration that was part of the G4. The G4s would shake so hard they'd fall off the trail and in the ditch. And this new motor mount system, they haven't said anything about it. So we're going to say it for you. It's pretty good.
It's awesome. It's so good. Does it have the best front end in the business? No, it doesn't. I think Luke's pick does, and Mark's. Does it have the best rear end in the business? Absolutely. The rear suspension on this sled.
Our motion with Smart Shocks is not just a little bit better than everything else, yeah. It's a lot better than anything else in the industry right now.
So what's your sled pick?
Well, the Polaris.
Which Polaris?
The Turbo, the VR1 Turbo Boost.
And what was it about the Boost that made you pick that as the sled you're going to ride all winter if you could?
Okay, there's a lot of things about the Sled that I really like, but I want to just have an overarching moment here. I think this was a super gutsy, cool move on behalf of Polaris. I think this breaks all the rules, making a turbocharged two-stroke. I mean, we're in this world of environmental consciousness and all that, and everybody keeps telling us the two-stroke is dead. Where in the world of motorized power sports are you going to find this much money being invested in the development of two-stroke technology? It's awesome. So I just wanted to get that out of the way.
Long live the two-stroke.
What did I like about it? Well, I liked the turbocharger a lot. It worked really good. It was fun when you're out in a lake. It was fun when you're on a rail grade.
It's an extremely trailable motor. It's very smooth. You can run it at 40 miles an hour, you can run it at 20 miles an hour, or you can run it at 120 miles an hour, and it's extremely smooth. With that said, so is the 850 naturally aspirated, but the 850 naturally aspirated actually feels like it's more fun. So I can understand why you like the turbo, because it is much more mellow down low, and you're not looking to jump off of every bump and wheelie every time. So that makes more sense to me. It makes a lot of sense to me. So my pick, obviously we've talked all about it and everybody knows, was the Assault 146, the Switchback Assault 146 with a 1.6 paddle, so it's very trailable. It has the 7S display, which all the Assaults do. And I picked it because every time I got on it, it was just so much fun. It wheelies, you can ride it with the skis sideways and it'll jump off of anything. But on the trail with its tipped rails, it feels just like a short track when you really want to rip on it. And like you said, you cannot deny, no one can deny, anyone who tries to, I'm gonna fight them, that the Polaris front end isn't the easiest to steer, most precise, most predictable, most confidence-inspiring front end.
So I think we know, obviously each of us picked the Sled that we liked the best. Then it comes down to some things that are maybe more real world, I would say, like fit and finish, final build quality. So but when it comes to panels, the fit of the plastic, the quality of the seat material, the quality of the paint.
When you get on a Skidoo, when you look at a Skidoo, when you touch a Skidoo, it oozes automotive quality. It just, everything is, for lack of a better word, perfect on the Skidoo. The problem for me with that is that that's not my most important aspect of a snowmobile. I appreciate it, but I want a sled that performs. I want that wheelie, I want that cornering, I want that just super fun. And you know what? We're all different, but it's really hard when you have an opinion that's so strong about something that I really believe. And it's weird too, because the Assault's been around for a while, right?
Oh, it has, yeah.
So why is it this year? Well, this year, the sleds that we had in our fleet, it just shone. It just stood out.
SnowTrax is sponsored by Princess Auto. Make it work.
So,
we fought about this a lot.
we thought about this a lot. We look like we're all friends right now, but really we're going our separate
upstairs in
ways.
Mark's office having like a family group therapy
It was
session.
intervention. We're not having family dinner this week. That's right.
We had to get counselors to help us.
What sled is the best? Which one of these sleds is the most deserving of Sled of the Year? And my pick obviously was the Assault. And during a lot of our testing, a lot of people agreed that the Assault was a fun sled to ride. And my argument for it was that everybody who got off the Assault said, wow, that was a lot of fun. So all of these other things aside, all of the fit and finish and all that kind of stuff, it takes a backseat to the things that I think are paramount to snowmobiling, which is handling and comfort, ergonomic comfort, handling, and fun factor. Those are the three things that matter absolutely paramount to me. So that's why the Assault was picked by me, and I know that there's differing opinions, but it's my choice.
And Mark, you picked?
The VR1 Boost.
Yep.
And I've covered it in this segment pretty good, but I'll say it again because repetition is the law of emphasis. And that is this. Polaris broke the mold. They stepped out of the box and changed the paradigm by bringing a two-stroke turbocharged, lightweight, awesome snowmobile to the market. And that's the
trail market.
To the trail marketplace. And for me, that's the beginning of it and that's the end of it.
And my pick obviously is the Renegade G5 XRS with Smart Shocks. And for me, it was all about refinement, delivery, and just getting a snowmobile that once it gets on the snow, it delivers time and time again. When I'm thinking about that person who goes out and drops $22,000 Canadian on a sled, they want to ride from day one until the end of the season and not do maintenance, not do recalls, not do any of those things. And I think that snowmobile really delivered this year. A high level of refinement. I would say that that is the refined snowmobile of 2023 in my opinion. And I like it. I like the playfulness. I like the fun. I would take the Polaris brake and front end, but I would take all the other things of the Skidoo. And to me, that weighed more on Skidoo's side. So what we did was we broke it down and we each said, well, we have 3 snowmobiles. Pick your number 1 sled, your number 2 sled, your number 3 sled, and give it 1 point, 2 point, 3 points. And we'll total it up at the end for which one you picked first, second, and third out of these 3. And at the end of the day, we came down to, which I was kind of shocked. I thought with you guys both being on Polaris, it was going to be a little different, but it came down to the Renegade G5 taking the win. And I know we don't all agree on it, but consensus came to, and the points added up, and that's where we are.
And that's our 2023 SnowTrax Real World Sled of the Year, is Skidoo's Renegade XRS 850 ETEC with Smart Shocks.
Congratulations to Skidoo on a job really well done.
SnowTrax has been sponsored by Arctic Cat Snowmobiles. The regions of Quebec by the sea. Discover our ride ideas. FXR Racing. Maximum versatility for all conditions. And by MBRP Performance Exhaust. Built for the victory lap.
This is a Lynx XTERRAIN RE. Like all Lynx sleds, it comes in one trim level with no options. What you see is what you get. Luckily for us, its base trim level is basically full jam, so there's no worries. Last season I tested the Lynx Rave or Rave RE, and for anyone who watched that test ride, you already know I absolutely loved it. In fact, it was our sled of the year last year. I had literally nothing bad to say about it, and it quickly became a sled that when I had an opportunity to ride, I beelined for. The Rave RE has the number 3500 on the side. This is the track length expressed in millimeters. And when you translate that into North American, you get 137. The XTERRAIN has 3700 written on the side. When we translate that, we get 146. So clearly the XTERRAIN is a crossover sled, but I have really strong feelings about what a true crossover actually is. There's only 2 on the market that I think hit the nail on the head. Longtime favorite, the Polaris Assault, and the newcomer, Arctic Cat Riot. Yes, there are other crossover sleds out there, but they all do the one thing I can't stand. They lean way far over into the off-trail side of their split personality, and they usually do this by utilizing a more mountain-style, narrow, 38 to 40-inch wide adjustable front end. No matter what the brochure says, these narrow front ends negatively affect on-trail handling, some more than others, but no trail rider would pick one over a true trail sled. This XTERRAIN though, it has a 42-inch wide front end, just like a trail sled and just like the Assault and the Riot. And I'm here to tell you right now, it works awesome. In fact, before I did the length conversion on the track, I thought the XTERRAIN was a 137. Nothing about how it rode or in particular handled suggested otherwise. Its on-trail handling characteristics are fantastic. Just like the Rave, it will lift its skis on command, but thanks to the extended version of its PPS3 skid frame, moving your body weight forward in the corners keeps the skis on the ground, which results in excellent outside ski bite and predictable cornering in all conditions. This is the same ultra playful feel I loved about the Rave. And like the Rave, the XTERRAIN's ergonomic package is laid out perfectly for both mellow cruising or aggressive riding and even off-trail exploring. And that's something I had to keep reminding myself about the XTERRAIN as I was riding it. I can head off trail whenever I want and it'll get me wherever I want to go. Its 146 by 2-inch lug Powder Max track offers excellent deep snow traction. Of course, its ultra high-end shock package, which includes KYB Pro 46 HLCR shocks with Kashima coating, are just begging to be pounded through the biggest bumps or launched off of pretty much anything you can find. This is a serious shock setup, the most serious in fact. Fully adjustable high and low speed compression and rebound all the way around give you the ability to tune things to fit exactly how and where you ride. Again though, like the Rave, the base compression settings on these shocks is just a little bit too stiff for my liking. And with that said, I do understand that there's a small group of riders out there who want the stiffest valving possible. I'm just not one of them. The ride isn't bad, it's just not as plush as a Riot or an Assault. But that's really the only negative thing I have to say about the XTERRAIN. I like how it looks, I love how it handles, I really like the power of the 850 ETEC under the hood, and I especially like how versatile and playful it is. The XTERRAIN comes with a couple extra features like these Explorer front and rear bumpers that add a little bit of durability and a pretty cool look. I guess the question that needs to be answered before we get to the end of this test is, how does the XTERRAIN stack up against the Rave for on-trail performance? And the answer is a little bit surprising. At least it was to me. First, its handling may be a tiny bit less precise, but it's only a tiny bit. Second, its on-trail ride quality, I think, might actually be a tiny bit better on the XTERRAIN, at least in non-snowcross sized bumps. And finally, it's even more playful and fun to ride with its light front end feel. It's basically everything I loved about the Rave with more off-trail capabilities that are completely invisible on the trail. Like the Riot and the Assault, the XTERRAIN is a true 50-50 crossover. Is it the best in the industry though? Has it unseated the Assault from its throne? In my opinion, no, but it's so darn close, it's not really even worth talking about.